I was scared. There was a lot of pressure, you know, like there was moments where I was like, why am I doing this?
Jake Paul is sweating bullets and is insanely terrified of the upcoming fight with Mike Tyson. He's already started preparing like a man possessed, which makes you think he knows he's in for a brutal loss this time. Sure, his performance against Mike Perry was impressive, but let's be real for a second. Was Perry a boxer? Absolutely not. So far, Jake has cherry-picked his opponents, or should I say, his wins. But now he's up against a man who was the heavyweight champ at just 20 years old. Don't you think Jake's panic is totally justified? So, I guess I don't need to tell you that your favorite problem child and hype master, Jake Paul, faced off against Mike Perry on July 20th, 2024. The fight ended with Jake securing a victory by TKO in the 6th round, adding yet another controversial chapter to his wild boxing career. Yeah, he was good and all, but come on, let's get real for a second. Mike Perry is known for his time in the bare-knuckle fighting championship, not exactly the same ballpark as professional boxing. Even though Perry lost, his performance showed off his resilience and ability to adapt to a new fighting style.
It's something I got to do. Got to get back to the drawing board, heal up, and...
The fight stats lay it all out. Jake Paul's precision and power were on full display as he landed 112 punches out of 281 thrown, rocking a 40% accuracy rate. On the flip side, Perry, making his pro boxing debut, landed 58 out of 210 punches, with a 28% accuracy rate. Significant strikes were a huge deal in this match, with Paul delivering 85 big hits compared to Perry's 42. These numbers highlight Paul's superior technique and experience while showcasing Perry's grit and determination to keep swinging despite the odds stacked against him. Paul's defensive game was also on point. He managed to block or dodge 65% of Perry's strikes, showing off his strategic defense and lightning-quick reflexes. Perry lasting 6 rounds against a professional boxer like Jake Paul is pretty impressive.
Hardworking people spent their hard-earned money, and they came, and I hope they had a great time. It's not every day you get to see Mike Perry go down.
The bout was more than just a brawl. It was a clash of backgrounds. Mike Perry's leap from BKFC to professional boxing was a huge part of the narrative. In bare-knuckle fighting, the lack of gloves and different rules emphasize raw power and sheer endurance. Surely if Paul had faced Perry in BKFC, do you honestly think he'd have any chance? A big fat no. So, when Perry had to switch gears to a more technical and regulated sport like boxing, you'd expect the results to be worse. But oh boy, the post-fight atmosphere was buzzing with controversy, mainly because of Jake Paul's mouth. After his win, Paul didn't hold back on his criticism of Perry and his fans. He belittled Perry's performance, saying it lacked real boxing skill, and took a jab at Perry's fans for overhyping him. Paul's exact words? Perry couldn't back up the talk. He's not a real boxer, just a bare-knuckle brawler playing dress-up in the ring. Ouch. These comments were seen as incredibly disrespectful, especially considering Perry's significant effort to step into a new sport and compete at a professional level.
Was going to happen. You know, I told you exactly what was going to happen. He was big upping his boy Mike Perry. I said, okay, Connor, like after I fuck up Mike Perry, then you're next. So Connor...
Jake Paul's habit of disrespecting his opponents after a fight isn't new, but his comments about Perry hit a particularly raw nerve. Many in the boxing community saw his remarks as a cheap shot at a fighter who showed considerable courage and determination. Perry's supporters argued that going 6 rounds against a seasoned boxer like Paul was an achievement in itself, especially for someone making their boxing debut. Now, after all the brash talk and partying, Jake has to face some reality. Perry's win was just an appetizer, as Jake himself said, and the main course is Mike Tyson. The boxing world was buzzing when the fight between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson was first scheduled. Set for July 20th, this was supposed to be the showdown of the century, pitting the brash YouTube sensation against the legendary former heavyweight champion. Fans and pundits alike were hyped, wondering how the 27-year-old internet star would fare against the 58-year-old icon who once ruled the ring. Jake, with his string of wins against non-traditional boxers, was about to step into uncharted territory, facing a true boxing titan. As the fight date neared, promotional events, press conferences, and training camp updates kept everyone on the edge of their seats. This fight was touted as a defining moment in Jake Paul's career, a chance to shut up the critics who accused him of cherry-picking his opponents. For Mike Tyson, it was an opportunity to remind everyone of his indomitable spirit and boxing prowess, even at his advanced age. Everything was set for an epic clash until the unexpected happened. But on May 22, 2024, news broke that Mike Tyson had suffered a severe medical issue during a flight from Los Angeles to New York. Mid-flight, Mike experienced intense abdominal pain, forcing an emergency landing. Doctors diagnosed him with a severe ulcer flare-up, a condition that could have serious implications if not treated promptly.
Mike Tyson's return to the ring will have to wait. Today, organizers announced his match against YouTuber Jake Paul has been postponed due to medical issues. In a statement, Tyson said doctors told him to rest for a few weeks due to an ulcer flare-up. He said the issue began.
This sudden development led to the postponement of the highly anticipated fight. The new date was set for November 15, 2024, giving Mike time to recover. The timing was just too convenient, so close to the original fight date, leading many to speculate it was a convenient excuse to delay the bout. Now, taking advantage of Tyson's downtime and health concerns, Jake Paul has lined up a fight with Mike Perry. Why? Because he knew he could win against a BKFC fighter, obviously. I mean, Jake's been boxing for only 4 years, but at least he knows more about the sport than these MMA and BKFC guys. It's all just a tragic attempt to stay relevant and hyped. Honestly, Jake Paul's rise in the boxing world has been as controversial as it has been meteoric. A recurring criticism against him is his tendency to cherry-pick opponents, carefully selecting fighters who, while notable, lack the traditional boxing credentials to pose a genuine threat in the ring. This strategy has led to an impressive-looking record, but has raised serious questions about his legitimacy as a boxer. Jake Paul's first step into professional boxing saw him taking on fellow YouTuber Anison Gibb on January 30, 2020. Anison Gibb, whose real name is Ali Al-Fakri, had no significant boxing background, making him an easy target for Jake. The fight ended in a first-round TKO, with Jake delivering a flurry of punches that overwhelmed Anison Gibb's amateur defenses. While this victory was celebrated by Jake's fans, it did little to convince boxing purists of his skills. Next in line was Nate Robinson, a former NBA player who fought Jake on November 28, 2020. Robinson's athletic prowess was undeniable, having won the NBA Slam Dunk Contest 3 times. But switching from basketball to boxing? Yeah, not so smooth. Despite his physical conditioning, Robinson had minimal boxing experience. The fight ended in a brutal second-round knockout, with Jake landing a devastating right hand that left Robinson unconscious on the canvas. This fight grabbed a ton of media attention, but also amplified criticisms of Jake's opponent's selection. As KSI said,
never fought at 185 pounds, whereas Jake has several times. So already, that's in Jake's favor. Now let's be real. Nate Diaz isn't really known for his striking. Even in 4-ounce gloves, rarely knocks anyone out cold. In fact, most of his wins are via submission. You know why? Because that's what he's good at. He has a black belt in jiu-jitsu. 12 of his 21 wins in MMA is via submission. That's over.
In 2021, Jake took on retired MMA fighter Ben Askren on April 17th. Askren, known for his wrestling credentials and time in the UFC, was widely regarded as a grappling specialist with limited striking ability. Jake exploited this weakness, ending the fight with a first-round knockout. The bout further fueled accusations of cherry-picking since Askren's lack of boxing expertise. Then came the 2 fights against former UFC champion Tyron Woodley. The first fight, on August 29, 2021, ended in a split-decision victory for Jake, while the rematch on December 18, 2021, saw Jake secure a 6th-round knockout. Although Woodley brought a higher level of striking compared to Jake's previous opponents, his primary background in MMA still left him at a disadvantage in a boxing ring. Jake's most recent fight was against former UFC middleweight champion Anderson Silva on October 29, 2022. Silva, despite being a legend in MMA, was 47 years old and far past his prime. Jake won by unanimous decision after 8 rounds. Silva's age and the fact that his best years were behind him added another layer to the cherry-picking allegations against Jake. This pattern of choosing opponents hasn't gone unnoticed by the boxing community. Many experts and former fighters have openly criticized Jake's strategy. Boxing analyst Teddy Atlas remarked on his podcast, Jake Paul is good at marketing himself, but fighting retired MMA guys and non-boxers doesn't prove anything in the real boxing world. Atlas's comments echo the sentiments of many who believe Jake's record is padded with easy wins. Similarly, former world champion Carl Froch didn't hold back when discussing Jake's choice of opponents. He's fighting people who are either way past their prime or have no real boxing skills. If he wants to be taken seriously, he needs to fight real boxers, not celebrities or retired MMA fighters, Froch said in an interview with Sky Sports. Claressa Shields, the undisputed middleweight champion, has also been a vocal critic. At a press conference, she said, "Jake Paul is smart in picking his fights, but until he steps in the ring with a true boxer, it's all just entertainment. Real boxing fans see through it." Her perspective highlights a broader issue in Jake's career: the distinction between entertainment and legitimate competition. Despite the criticism, Jake's approach has been undeniably effective in building his brand and attracting massive media attention. His fights generate huge pay-per-view buys and social media engagement, proving that his strategy, while contentious, has a substantial following. Jake's ability to sell fights and create hype around his bouts has made him a polarizing figure in the boxing world. At the age of 20, Mike Tyson became the youngest heavyweight champion in history on November 22, 1986, when he defeated Trevor Berbick to win the WBC title. His aggressive fighting style and insane punching power earned him the nickname Iron Mike. And he didn't stop there. He quickly grabbed the WBA and IBF titles, becoming the undisputed heavyweight champion by August 1, 1987. Now let's talk about Jake Paul. Sure, his boxing career has been lucrative and high profile, but it's like comparing a sparkler to a fireworks display when you put it next to Tyson's legendary accomplishments. As of July 2024, Paul has a record of 7 wins, 0 losses with 4 knockouts. His knockout percentage stands at 57%, which is cute compared to Tyson's 88%. Paul's notable victories: wins over Anderson Gibb, Nate Robinson, and Ben Askren. None of these guys had substantial boxing backgrounds. While Paul's wins have been against opponents from various combat sports, none of them have the elite boxing pedigree that Tyson's opponents did. Diet and recovery are also pivotal in Tyson's regimen. His diet is meticulously planned to give him the necessary nutrients for energy and muscle recovery. Tyson's meals are packed with lean proteins, healthy fats, and complex carbs to support his intense training schedule. And recovery techniques like cryotherapy and massage therapy are regularly used to aid muscle recovery and prevent injuries. Now, after hearing these numbers, if Jake is afraid of Tyson, isn't that a sign he's human? It's like he's about to commit boxing suicide in front of millions. And be honest, wouldn't you be interested in watching that? I bet you all would. So keep the conversation going, bros.